Hi. If you or a loved one have been impacted by a crazy necromancer who brought her husband back from the brink of death only to have him turned into a vampire and then murder your entire family, take over their estate, and then gaslight you in public about this, and then have them escape before you can defeat them for good and have you end up on house arrest, this recipe is for you. Today we're making Rolos revenge pasta from Exquisite Exandria. Let's get started. Alright, so let's get started making the pasta for this recipe. Again, I'm making everything from scratch today. Fun fact, this is my first time making pasta, but I had to change the battery on my scale. It had died. So we're using a scale method to measure out 400 grams of flour. The ratio is pretty simple. It's 1 egg per 100 grams of flour. Now you can use 00. I didn't have 00, so I just used all-purpose. I read online that that's totally fine to use as long as you're cooking it right away. If you dry it and then cook it, it can get kind of gummy. So we're gonna take our flour and we're gonna make a well in the center. All right, let's get cracking with this pasta. So again, the rule is 1 egg per 100 grams of flour. I used 400 grams of flour, therefore I used 4 eggs. I'm going to pierce the yolks and start whisking them together, and then I'm going to incorporate flour from the sides of the well that we've kind of brought together and keep doing so until I can no longer evenly incorporate it with my fork, at which point I am going to ditch the fork and start using my hands. I read online that you are supposed to knead pasta dough for anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes, and that there shouldn't be a whole bunch of dry bits. I thought about adding a little water. I read you could do that, but here it didn't look particularly dry. So I ended up wrapping it in some plastic wrap and letting it rest for 30 minutes for the dough to relax. Once the dough rested, I cut it into 4 sections, and I'm using this pasta maker that I got for Christmas. That's part of the reason I'm doing this from scratch. And we're gonna start by taking those 4 sections and rolling them out into sheets. I started with the widest width possible and then worked my way down to the most narrow. All right, you see my mistake? There it is. I didn't flour the pasta dough, and like an idiot, I stacked it so it functionally turned into a brick of pasta Play-Doh. So you think it's going well, and you know, at first glance it looks fine, but when I extruded the pasta, I also kind of let it sit underneath the extruder, and so it turned into a block of linguine-shaped pasta dough. So it was unusable, so I had to start over. So learn from my mistakes. I guess flour your pasta dough before you send it through. You would think that this is common sense, that this is not rocket science, but this is my first time doing this, so I thought I'd take you along for the ride and show you what an authentic day in an Underdark Cellar's kitchen truly looks like. So we're going to get this through the extruder and set all of our nice little linguine aside.
I should note that I did not have a pasta rack, so just kind of sell on the counter. Don't come for me. Okay, thank you, bye.
Now, you're gonna have a homicidal vampire over for dinner. What are you gonna feed them? Garlic. That's right. This recipe has 20 cloves of garlic. As a garlic girl, this is right up my alley. So we're going to get those cloves and then we're going to peel them. Easiest way to do that, take the flat side of your knife and carefully strike it with the palm of your hand to kind of break that husk. And you're gonna peel the husk off in one go. Once that's done, we are going to salt our cutting board and we are going to start thinly slicing. Make sure you bare claw your fingers so that you don't cut yourself. You know, the smell of blood can drive vampires crazy, so we want to avoid cuts in the kitchen. Please do not cut yourself. Please make sure your knife is sharp and that you are using safe techniques. Okay, thank you. Alright, it's time to cook our pasta. So in a large pot of water with about 2 tablespoons of salt, we're going to bring this to a boil. Also, don't come for me. My pot is clean, okay? It's clean. I have hard water and lime buildup on my pots and pans because I live in the mountains. So we're going to bring this to a boil. This is not a boil. This is like a bubble or something. But I will show you what's a boil. This is also not a boil. This is like closer to a simmer or something. I don't even know. And then this, however, this is a boil. So once it reaches this stage, once the water is like actively trying to get you, then you're going to put your pasta noodles in. They're going to cook really fast because this is fresh pasta. If you're cooking the dry stuff, it's going to take like 9-10 minutes, 9 to 12 minutes. I don't know, depending on how al dente you want it. This is going to cook in like 2 minutes. So once it's done, you're going to take some tongs or the pasta spoon with like the prongs, and you're going to transfer that to a colander. Do not rinse this pasta. We want the starches on the pasta so it'll stick, and you're just going to do this for as much pasta as you have. I did it in batches so it would all cook evenly. And look at that. Look at those noodles we made. Look at those noodles we made. They look fantastic. And once that's done, we're going to set aside some pasta water as well. That stuff is liquid gold. Well, it's liquid starch, but functionally the same when you're making pasta sauce. Alright, speaking of pasta sauce, let's make this. So the Rolos Revenge pasta calls for a half cup of extra virgin olive oil. That's a lot of olive oil, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna heat that up, and then once that's hot, we're going to add in our garlic, and we're going to add our red pepper flakes, and we are going to cook this on medium heat until the garlic has softened. And we're going to chop some parsley while that cooks. Alright, once the garlic is softened and really fragrant, that oil is infused, we're going to turn off the heat and remove the pan from the heat. To the pan, we're going to add our pasta back, and we're going to give this a little toss with some tongs. I was just separating some noodles with my fingers. And we're going to try and get this pretty evenly distributed so that all the noodles are nice and coated. And then we are going to take our fresh parsley, some more salt, and some fresh cracked black pepper and toss that together with the noodles as well. Now don't come for me, this is not in the instructions, and I know I try and do things as faithfully as possible, but when I've made pasta sauces from scratch before, they've separated unless I've added in some pasta water, and this just helps with texture and adhesion to the noodles, and there's science behind it, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Anyway, so we're gonna transfer this to our plate. And then the recipe actually calls for you to add a dollop of ricotta cheese directly to the pasta itself and then mix it in. So that's what I did. And then look at it though. Isn't she gorgeous? Yes. Now you have a plate of pasta to take out your worst, most mortal enemies. Or immortal enemies? Are vampires immortal enemies? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below and I will do my best to answer. I would also love to hear what your favorite pasta sauces are. Might give me some ideas to mix things up a little bit. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please hitting that like button, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and click one of the other videos on screen. That will really help the YouTube algorithm push our content out and show other people that, you know, it's good. So if you would do that, I would really appreciate it. But that being said, thank you so much, adventurers. I really appreciate you sticking around, and I hope you have a great day. Take care, and bye-bye.